I'm Lauren.
Hello, I'm Joseph.
And we're here to welcome you to this week's Holy Moment. You go first?
Alrighty. The first reading from Isaiah. Thus says the Lord, all you who are thirsty, come to the water. You who have no money, come receive grain and eat. Come without paying and without cost, drink wine and milk. Why spend your money for what is not bread, your wages for what fails to satisfy? Heed me, and you shall eat well. You shall delight in rich fare. Come to me heedfully. Listen, that you may have life. I will renew with you the everlasting covenant, the benefits assured to David. So I think this first reading, I think maybe what it's trying to tell us is that the pleasures of the world, money, fame, power, all that really doesn't matter in God's eyes. What he wants is for us to come without paying and without cost. For once we come to Jesus, there's a whole new world that opens up. As it says, I will renew with you the everlasting covenant, the benefits assured to David. And Jesus wants us to come to him. It says, without paying and without cost. We don't have to do anything for Jesus. It's just that we ourselves have to make the decision to follow God's will out of our own free will. And to do that ourselves, we have to cultivate a good prayer life, and just try to grow closer to God in all that we do, so we can receive the benefits assured to David in our lives.
You close the door. The Gospel is from Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 through 21. When Jesus heard of the death of John the Baptist, he withdrew in a boat to a deserted place by himself. The crowds heard of this and followed him on foot from their towns. When he disembarked and saw the vast crowd, his heart was moved with pity for them, and he cured their sick. When it was evening, the disciples approached him and said, "This is a deserted place, and it is already late. Dismiss the crowds so that they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves." Jesus said to them, "There is no need for them to go away. Give them some food yourselves." But they said to him, 5 loaves and 2 fish are all we have here." Then he said, "Bring them here to me." And he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he said the blessing, broke the loaves, and gave them to the disciples, who in turn gave them to the crowds. They all ate and were satisfied, and they picked up the fragments left over, 12 wicker baskets full. Those who ate were about 5,000 men, not counting the women and children. What really strikes me about this gospel is the fact that the disciples come to Jesus and they want the crowds to go away. You know, they see that the crowds are there and they're kind of annoyed. You know, they've probably had a rough day. They're probably really tired, ready to just kind of sit down with Jesus and just enjoy his company, you know, without all these pesky crowds. But Jesus looks at the vast crowd and it says he has pity for them. He just, you know, he feels in his heart what they're feeling. You know, they're longing for some wisdom, for some assurance of his love for them. You know, they're maybe, you know, tired and weary, and he's the only one that can help them. And he has this just deep pity for them. And I think what that is divine charity, caritas, that divine love that just encompasses all of us. And he challenges the disciples. He's like, you know, give them some food yourselves. You know, have this same divine love, this same caritas that I have that for these people. And the disciples don't really get it. They don't really understand. And so Jesus shows them himself. He says, "Bring them here to me." And so Jesus gives them this example of his deep and abiding love for these people. And I think one of the things we can take from this is just, you know, maybe ask yourself, when does Jesus show his charity to me, and how does he want me to show it to others? There's so many opportunities in our lives when we see someone who's really lonely, or someone who could really use a word of encouragement or maybe a hug, and maybe we just feel kind of annoyed or we sort of brush them off. Maybe like in those moments try to realize that God, the same charity that God has for that person, he wants you to have for that person. And yeah, I think I know when I have charity for someone and it's really difficult, I know that the graces that God gives me back because of that are much greater than the sacrifice that I make to make someone feel better. So anyways, thanks for listening to this week's Holy Moment, and I hope that you all have a blessed 18th Sunday in ordinary time.
Yeah.